Hey there everyone, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be starting a new garden here in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you're new here, about 3 years ago, we started a garden in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is Gardening Zone 7B. Our yard was a blank slate when we moved in, and we planted a row of trees and shrubs against our fence line. And we also created a beautiful pea gravel rose garden. And that was one of my favorite spots to spend time in our old house. It was so peaceful and it just created such a charming atmosphere. And everything grew in really quickly, so I learned a lot about gardening in that short period of time. So I'm really excited to take what I learned and bring it out here to Phoenix. Obviously, we are in a very different gardening zone. This is Garden Zone 10A. So I'm excited to kind of see what grows out here, what does well, what doesn't, the new plants I can plant, and just experiment and have fun. So we are going to be planting all containers today because we are renting right now. So I want to be able to take our plants with us when we do eventually get a home. So that's kind of going to be the challenge, is just creating that soft garden feel with containers only. But I know we can do it, and the vibe that I'm going for is just that rustic Mediterranean kind of French garden feel with sun-loving plants and chippy old containers that just feel like they've been sitting out aging in the sun for years. So we're going to add a little touch of Southwest charm as well, but that's just kind of the vibe we're going for. So the first thing that we're going to do is head off to the local nursery. We're going to meet my friend Courtney there and just get some fun garden inspiration and source some of our plants. So let's head out there and see what they got. So the spot that we checked out first was the Plant Stand of Arizona, and not only does this place have an incredible selection of plants, but it also has a coffee food truck, and you can even get breakfast or lunch here. Honestly, I'm already ready to go back and try more things because the menu looked so good and it was hard to decide what to get, but it was really hot the day we went, so we opted for some smoothies and they did not disappoint, and we were even able to enjoy them on this cute little swing. And honestly, this place gave me a ton of garden inspiration. The welcome garden was one of my favorite spots, and here I loved the look of these topiary pots framing the walkway. This was totally the rustic European feel that I'm going for in my space. And I've also mentioned before on my channel how striped umbrellas give off such a classic look in an outdoor space. I loved the scallop detail on this one also. And these tree lanterns are such an easy thing to implement, but they just give off such a charming ambiance and can really help to soften the look of an outdoor space. And something else that I've mentioned time and time again on my channel is incorporating antique pieces to give your space a more high-end feel. And this totally applies to outdoor areas as well. That distressed, chippy look really helps to add depth and character, whether it's an old cabinet that you use as a potting station, distressed planters, or old wooden furniture. I also loved the rustic look of this stone and copper water feature. Water features can really make a statement in a garden, not only with their looks, but with the peaceful and calming sound they create. I also really liked the concept of this potted olive tree. I liked that they used a tall planter to add some height and then added in some filler at the base of the tree for some extra interest. And next, it was time to check out the plants, and they definitely had a wide variety of price and maturity here. These stunning mature lime trees were a whopping $1,000, but they were so fun to look at, and we were marveling at how large the limes were.
I'm just like in shock at how big these are. Like, that's a lime, okay? That's an orange.
So something that I'm trying to do with this trip is just get better acquainted to more drought-tolerant plants. Things like cacti and succulents, because the summers here are pretty brutal, and I want plants that can stand up to the heat without me having to baby them too much. And because we have Kona, I want to avoid spikes and sharp cacti as much as I can. So these totem pole cacti are some of my favorites because they have no spikes and kind of have this rubbery feel to them. However, they are pretty pricey, so I think I'm going to hold off for now, but something that I'll probably try to incorporate in my garden at some point. Another favorite is this elephant bush succulent, and these guys are native to South Africa and they're super low maintenance. They can take the heat and the full sun, and I love the trailing movement that they have, and just the fact that they were on sale for $15 was such a plus. And I was hoping to see some more medium to large size succulents like that, but they had a lot of smaller ones here which were still fun to look at
that, I'm just looking for more things that can actually fill out a planter. So when I saw these really cool Texas sage topiaries, I was intrigued. I loved the silver bluish color that they had, and these actually have gorgeous purple flowers that bloom frequently when the weather isn't so hot and extreme. And I loved the topiary shape and how it could give me a similar look to the ones in the welcome garden. And I also really loved these olive tree topiaries, but they were out of my budget at $200 a piece. So this sent me running back over to the Texas sage topiary since it was only 1/4 of the price and gave me a similar look to the olive ones.
We're laughing because these would be so pretty to put that topiary in, and we're joking because we're like, they're not even $400. But I just love the finish on these. Like, they're perfectly like that terracotta, but kind of toned down with like a really beautiful aged lime wash. Like, they look like they've been sitting out aging in the sun for years, which is the vibe that I'm going for. So maybe these can be our inspiration and we can find something similar on Facebook Marketplace or something.
Okay, so I could not tell you how excited I was to see these white iceberg roses here in Arizona. And not only that, but they were only $15 each. And they just add such a pretty softness to any outdoor space. And these were the exact type of white roses that we had in our previous garden. They bloomed like crazy and they were great for cutting for arrangements. And they also attract pollinators in the garden. So I knew I had to get at least a couple for myself to see how they do here. And another plant that you all know I'm obsessed with are olive trees. And I saw this big mature one for $300. And I also spotted some medium-sized shrub ones that were on sale for $70. And I really wanted to get some olive trees because they do so well with the heat here. So when I spotted these smaller ones for only $15 each, I was super excited. These do grow really fast here, so hopefully I can get some good growth out of the smaller guys to save me some money. And this is what my cart ended up looking like. I can totally see the vision for that French rustic garden that I have in mind. And this all cost me $110, which I thought was pretty reasonable. So I just wanted to make one more stop and check out the Lowe's clearance rack for some of those medium-sized cacti and succulents. And I spotted these really beautiful blue aloe plants that were on sale for only $15. So I picked one up because I loved the color and the texture. And I also got one of these smaller Texas sage plants, and this is just going to help infuse that silver blue color throughout my garden since it's the same as the topiary, just a different shape. And just when I thought I was done, I saw this super tall olive tree for only $109. And considering how large this one was, I thought that was a really decent deal. So I decided to go for it since these grow well here. And this was a Wilson olive tree, which I hadn't heard of before, but I'm pretty sure these are the kind that I always see along the sides of the road and in parking lots here. So it should be pretty hardy. And the only thing that I didn't think about though was how I would get it home. I just bought it first because I got excited and then I forgot about fitting it in my car. So I just used this twine and I had to stick a little bit of it out the window, but it ended up working out and she got home safely. Okay, so now that we have all of our plants, these are all of the planters that I brought from our old place. I boxed every single one of these up because pots can be expensive, so I didn't want to have to buy all new ones. So most of them kind of have like this rustic look to them, which just totally fits in with the vibe that I'm going for. We do need to have a conversation about June though. So I actually dug her up from our old house. If you guys remember our moving vlog, I dug her out of the ground with hopes that she would, make it through the move. We'd keep her in our front seat on the drive out here, and we did that. I took her out at hotels to water her and she just did not make it. So I'm really sad about it because it was a lot of work to bring her out here, but there is new growth here at the bottom. So I'm wondering if I kind of, give her a nice prune, get all of these dead leaves off, if she can have a second life. She made it and she's alive, but like barely. So like I said, a lot of these have that kind of rustic finish on them, kind of similar to what we saw at the nursery. So I actually got this really big tall one on Facebook Marketplace back in Charlotte for $30. And I kind of want to give it a similar finish, nothing too crazy, but just make it look a little bit more rustic. So I'm going to do that with a little paint treatment real quick and then we'll get to planting. Okay, so this was my inspiration planter from the garden center, and this guy was beautiful, but it was $500, and I figured we could recreate the look since the planter I had at home was very similar in shape and size. So because it's actually made out of plastic, we're going to use paint instead of lime wash. So I have this light tan chalk paint, and we're just going to mix it with some water to give us that faux lime wash effect. So from here, I'm just going to apply this in sections with a wet paper towel, and I've used sponges for similar projects in the past, and I always end up liking the look that the paper towel creates better. I feel like it just looks a little bit more authentic, and the key here is just to work in small little sections and blend it out and keep going back and adding layers. Now, just the lighter color would have totally looked fine, but I wanted mine to look really aged and antique, so I went in with this hazelnut color just to add some warmth, and then I mixed in this darker truffle color to emulate dirt and give it that garden baked look that I was wanting. And the key here is just to work in little sections, especially with the darker wash. If it looked too dark, I would then go in and add a layer of the lighter color on top, and this just helps to give it a true terracotta feel, like the dirt has been absorbed by that porous material in certain areas over time. And even though this is plastic, layering the paint helps to give the illusion that it is aged terracotta. And I also added some darker wash along the ridges since those would naturally collect dirt over time, and I was so happy with how this came out. It definitely has that expensive aged vessel look just for a fraction of the price. So now it's time for the fun part, and we are going to get to planting. So I ended up getting some of this window screen from Home Depot, and I just cut it into some small squares, and this is going to allow water to drain, but it keeps the dirt from spilling out of the drainage hole at the bottom. And for really large planters, sometimes I'll add empty water bottles to the bottom so I don't have to use a ton of soil, and this planter was large, so it was good for making it lighter to transport. I also picked up some builder sand to mix in with my soil since a lot of my plants are very drought tolerant and don't like too much water, and this is just going to help mimic sandy Mediterranean growing conditions and help the water to drain better. And I did this for the Texas sage, olive trees, and cacti, and once I took this topiary out of the pot, it was just a little bit too large for the container, so I just broke up the roots a little bit and she fit in there just fine after that. And then to finish it all off and make sure this plant has the nutrients that it needs, I added a bit of fertilizer. And ideally you would do this in the fall, but I'm planting everything now, so I figured it was a good time to just add this in there. And Espoma is my favorite brand. It's organic and I've always just had really good luck with it. So then I backfilled the rest of the plant with some soil and gave it a nice good watering. I also picked up some pea gravel at Home Depot just to use as a decorative dressing for the desert and Mediterranean plants. And that is it. I love how rustic this looks and that we were able to create that expensive topiary look on a budget. Okay, so this is the area where I wanted to add our container garden. I'm gonna line everything along this curved edge right here just to kind of soften in this space and give it that rustic Mediterranean feel. It's perfect because we hang out in the pool all the time, so it'll really help to make this space feel a lot more oasis-like and like its own little resort, especially because I'm gonna add some chaise lounges here in the future. So I just kind of want to create that base of greenery and florals just to make the space feel a lot more soft. So the plan is to do little groups of 3s, and I'm going to do like one tall, one medium, and one small, so it's kind of visually balanced but still looks organic at the same time. So I'm going to try to lay out my planters so we kind of have a rough plan, and then I will get to planting the rest of the plants.
What's the angle? I'm not playing that game. It's the same business with a different name.
Okay, so far this is looking really good. I did want to talk about this salvia right here. I got this at the Home Depot a little while back, and I'll insert footage of what it looked like when I bought it. It was so beautiful and colorful, and this is just kind of an example of how things end up looking in the summertime here. I water this thing twice a day, but it just struggles. It is a more heat tolerant plant, so it should be fine once the temperatures start dropping in a couple of weeks. It does need some deadheading, so these old retired blooms I just need to chop off and kind of like clean it up a little bit, but I just love a little pop of purple in a garden. It really helps everything to look a bit more soft and kind of gives it like that French feel, kind of mimicking lavender. So this is again one of the more heat tolerant plants, as well as this Texas sage. This will bloom like a purplish pink, so that'll be really beautiful in the spring and fall time. But I just kind of wanted to talk about that because you basically just have to get through the summer months with plants like this, and then they should do fine the rest of the year. here. So when I was getting the builder sand, I noticed that the citrus trees at Home Depot were 50% off, and I've always wanted a lime tree, so I was able to get this beautiful medium-sized one for a great discount, and I decided to just take home another plant baby and see where she could fit in. Okay, so I love how this looks so far. I love the different heights that we have in the little groups and all of the different colored planters and just like the nice variety of everything. I like that we have some florals mixed in here with some succulents and then more like hardy evergreen plants. So it's a really nice mix and definitely has that like softening effect that I wanted. This is the best thing that I'm going to get to a garden, so I'm really happy with it, and it'll be a really nice backdrop for when we add our chaise lounges right here. So I'm gonna get to planting all of these, and I'm gonna plant them all the exact same way as I planted this Texas sage. The only difference is for things like the florals that need a little bit more moisture control, I'm gonna use a real cedar mulch as the filler around the edges. So that'll help hold in the moisture just a little bit more. And then as far as the fertilizer, I'm going to use citrus tone on my lime tree, and I also am going to use rose tone on my florals and then my roses. Those are just more specific fertilizers for what the plant needs. You can always just use Espoma plant tone if you don't want to buy a bunch of separate fertilizers or you're not sure what your plant needs. That's always just a good fallback. So I'm going to get to planting all of these, and then I will show you the final result.
Appalachian sunrise beats my skin. Even with my eyes still closed, I can feel it coming in. Golden, golden, I'll follow only golden, 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 golden things. Mountain laurel high fives for miles in spring. Rainbow trout and hummingbird fling. Golden, I'll follow golden.
Okay, so here is the finished look. I am so happy with this. I did make a last minute change, and I did decide to put all of the planters on this gravel instead of the patio, just because I don't want it to damage the patio over time as I'm watering the plants. I just figured this would be a lot more practical, but I love the softness of this. I love all of the rustic planters that we used and the combination of soft plants like the roses and then more rustic Mediterranean plants like the olive tree. This really does enhance the mood back here. I love the way these plants catch the sun, especially the lighter silver colored plants. And when the breeze blows, it just adds some nice, beautiful movement. So I'm really happy with how this all turned out and just the ambiance that it creates back here. And we also left room, obviously, in between these little groups, so I could even eventually fill that in if I found some more plants that I wanted to experiment with, or we just wanted to make this a little bit more lush. So I'm happy with how containers transformed this little area and just gave it that softness and that French rustic feel that I was going for.
All right, everyone, that about wraps up this garden with me video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help to support my channel. And be sure that you're subscribed because I post new home and garden content every single week and you don't want to miss it. So I just want to leave you all with a little message of encouragement. Honestly, when I started gardening, I pretty much killed everything that I planted. And really what a green thumb is, in my opinion, is just experience, care, and knowledge. And when I get a new plant now, I kind of do a little rough research session and just kind of see what that plant needs light-wise and care-wise, and that's really helped me. And obviously, if you neglect your garden, it's not going to do well. So I've just kind of made it a little point to make it some me time and some self-care time to check on my garden. You know, even the most experienced gardeners, they kill things, and for the most part, you usually know why something died, or you kind of have a hunch. So it's nice to take that experience and build upon it, and then you just become a more knowledgeable knowledgeable gardener. So it's really just a lot of experience, getting your hands dirty, literally, and experimenting. So I hope this video inspired some of you who maybe think that you don't have a green thumb or you're bad at gardening to, start your own little garden, no matter what kind of space you might be in or what gardening zone you're in. So I just want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.